So one of the problems I had with this job that we're working on is not only the reluctor rings, which are snaps for the ABS, which is causing the braking problem, we've also got a leak from the gearbox from one of the output shafts. And the observant amongst you will notice there are 3 output shafts here out the gearbox, and what I've done is I've managed to get myself a brand new second-hand one from a breaker's yard, which you can see looking at it from the condition of these. These have come off a car that's 140,000 miles. This, I think, has come off a car that's done a very, very low mileage indeed, because it just looks, well, it virtually looks brand new, other than a slight line that was on it where I can see actually the seal has been rubbing. If I just show you the problem with the one that we took off, you can see now the seal doesn't run on this entire surface here. It doesn't run over this whole surface. It only actually runs in about a 2 or 3 millimeter area here, and that's where you can see this shiny part. This is very pitted all the way around, and I think maybe what's happened with this car is I think it's sat for a while, got rusty around this input shaft, I think it's sat for a while, got rusty around this output shaft, and then when it's run, the seal's sort of taken some of the rust off, but it's left the pitting there. Also, the actual seal in the gearbox looks newer than the one on the passenger side. It's leaking. It looks newer than the driver's side. So I think someone's had this out before, replaced the seal, and it hasn't solved the problem because of the damage to the shaft all the way around. The worst bit probably being about here. You can see lots of little pickup marks there. So that's for the scrap bin. This is the driver's side, which you can see is good. There is an element of corrosion you can see up to about this point here, which is not a problem because the shaft doesn't go that far in. It doesn't run on the seal there, and this was actually dirty up to here before I cleaned it. So that's good to go for the driver's side. And then this is the brand new second-hand one. Now we're into November as well, so winter hat and thick coat will be in play for the next few months. What I've also decided to do is, you saw I took the actual shafts out by only disconnecting the bottom bolt on the shock absorber. So I didn't strip the whole suspension down. And yes, I proved a point. You can get the drive shafts out. Driver's side easier than the passenger side, and that's just because, well, the gearbox is a bit thicker. There's an extra bump on the passenger side which makes it a bit deeper, so there wasn't as much play. So I could actually take these, unbolt the drive shaft, take these output shafts out of the gearbox to give me a bit room, and take the drive shaft out from inside the car. In doing that, I did sort of scrape the shafts, and at the time, you'll see the ones where I took them out where they're rusty, I did sort of scrape them across the suspension and rag them out and all the rest of it. So now I'm in the process of reconditioning the drive shafts, painting the ends up, painting the actual shaft part itself. I don't want to put them back in that way, so I'm going to actually strip the suspension down. So what I'm going to do now is put new seals in, bolt these back in, then strip the outer of the suspension down, ready for the drive shafts to go back in. So I've just prized the seal out of here, but I'll show you what I did. I basically just used, and this is the side, by the way, sorry, this is the side that I assume has been leaking. No, sorry. This is the side that was leaking, and this is the side that I assume the seal has been replaced, because when I pull the other seal out, you'll see it looks older and more original. So what I did with this, I just put a pry bar in like this and basically prized it out. Now, if there was ever any telltale that someone has been here before, you can see there is some damage, but I don't think it'll cause us any problem. There's some damage here, there, a scrape there. So this is where someone's been prizing this seal out beforehand. I'm just going to have to get a camera and look at the bottom and make sure that's not damaged, and that's where it was leaking from. But I'm fairly optimistic it was leaking from the actual seal face itself onto the output shaft. So I've got a good view of the output shaft there with the seal removed. I've cleaned all this face up. For once I've managed to find a clean cloth, wipe round inside, and we're going to put the new seal in. Now what we're not going to do is put any sealant on the edge of the seal. It will just go in as it is, and this is the new seal here. So what I've got to do now is, and the key thing here is to tap this in even. You'll see there is no flange, there is no seal to actually seat it again, so you could actually push it in too far. So the point is to get it flush with this outer edge. It's not like you're banging it into a seal here, into a lip here. So we've just got to get it up flush up to there. And probably the problem I'm going to have here is just trying to get it in evenly with the space available to tap it in, and you don't want to be hitting this directly. So what I've managed to do is get this here, which is for actually pressing bearings out, and that will just sit on there nicely, and I should be able to get both arms in the gap and just tap this in home flush. So just tap it in gently side to side. That's just a bit more at the top up there. Now you can see this seal actually looks a little bit worse for wear, and basically what's happening here is the outer, as the rubber is delaminated completely and left this rusty seal. So we need to get underneath this edge here to prise the seal out. So let's see if we can get this out in one go. And as I thought, this one has been in a lot longer. And it's definitely not wanting to come out as easy as the other side. Amazingly, this one wasn't actually leaking. Wow, that went with a bang. I don't even know where it's gone. So this is the sort of thing I'm talking about, where you've got some sort of witness marks, some telltales. These are the seals. This is the side that was leaking, this is the original side. You can see this is very corroded. The seals, first of all, are both going to be similar style. They're not. This is plain on the side, this one's ribbed. Part numbers are different in the middle. Well, not the part numbers, but the manufacturer numbers are different in the middle. So yeah, it's definitely had this seal replaced at some time in an attempt to stem the oil leak, and it hasn't because the shaft was damaged. So I just took the liberty to replace both of them. It took me a while to do, but I finally got it where I've just got it that it's just a good press fit on. When I say press fit, push fit on. So I'm happy with that, and it's not overly stressing out the ring. And basically the problem was there was just too much corrosion around here, and when you looked at it, it was fatter at the top than the bottom, and again that was back down to the corrosion. I thought actually we'd lost so much metal down here that it had wasted away. I mean, there is an element to that when you look at the old ring there. You can see there's an element of, well, it's paint and metal on it, so it will have lost some. So I'm going to have to repaint this, but this now will push on nicely. It fits there. Yes, there's a little bit of play, but that's where the Loctite comes in, and obviously I've got to put a bit of paint back on it as well, so that's just going to take the play up in there, and then that'll sit nicely on there. The next thing I've decided to replace is the ABS sensor. Now, I tested it and it was okay, but when you look inside, and I'll show you in a minute, because it has been rubbing on the reluctor ring, it's actually worn the end of it away, which is shiny bare metal now, which is obviously fine when it's rubbing on it, but when it's not rubbing on it, it'll soon get corroded. So these are a Bosch item. It's got a Bosch part number on there, it's got a Porsche part number on there. Very short item, very small item, fairly easy to replace, I say, with a caveat that this is 20 years of corrosion. I'll tell you what will happen, or could happen, that bolt could snap in the aluminium stud. There's an Allen key bolt there with a 5mm Allen key. That could snap, or the actual ABS sensor itself could refuse to come out because it's corroded in there, and then it ends up snapping here and you end up drilling it out or pushing it out. But I'm going to do it while the drive shaft is out, so it's easy, I can get to the back end of it. It's a Bosch item, got a Bosch part number on here, it's got a Porsche part number on here starting 996. You won't be surprised to know, if you Google the Porsche part number, it'll take you to somewhere like Design 911, £152 for the item. Local parts retailer, put the Bosch part number, exactly the same part, £52, £100 saving. I'm doing both sides. So that would have been £300 for the ABS sensor. So how much does this cost me then? Well, £20 for the reluctor rings, £5 for paint, £25. 2 ABS sensors, £100, so that's £125. Gearbox, output shaft, £75. So that is £200 versus about £2,600 in parts alone. So a vast saving by doing this work yourself, and it's not complicated. So in theory this should be a simple item to replace, but I say the practicalities of years of rust. Right, the first thing will be getting the Allen key in the hole and getting all the debris out the hole, so you can make sure that the Allen key is going fully in. So once you've got it going fully in, let's see if we can get it to turn. And what we don't want is this snapping in the hole. Like it just has. Damn. Okay. I've gone serious quite early on with this, bringing out the... As I was saying before the battery went flat, it was getting a bit ugly, so I had to cut the ABS sensor head clean off with the angle grinder and then heat it up and just drill it out until it was clear, and then it's now all clear of the hole, but I do have this snap stud. So this is basically the contents of what was left. So this is the copper for the coil that's inside it. You can see I managed to push it all out, and then that was the sleeve that was still held in, but obviously with an aluminium hub you do get the corrosion, and then that was what was gripping on that plastic, which I managed to poke out. But basically that's it there. There's the part number if you need it. It's 99660640600. And I think you can say that one's pretty defective. So we've got the new one here, which again, as I was saying, is 99660640600. Cost me £50 instead of £150 from a Porsche place. I got it from a aftermarket sort of retailer. So that's cleaned up, it can go in now. What I've got to do now is get that stud out. Now my method, there's two methods you can do here, well there's three methods. One is drill it out, hope it all collapses and then tap it out. The other is drill it, put a reverse tap in and take it out. And the third is to use a welding set, which is what I want to do. So I want to use my welding set here. I'm basically going to weld a washer on like that. So I'll get a washer welded on all the way around, then put a nut on, and then hopefully when it cools down undo the nut, and that takes the stud out. And the heat of the welding does two things really. One, obviously it fuses the metal together, and the other is it should break the bond in the aluminium. So this is my preferred method for getting studs out. Doesn't always work first time, so let's give it a couple of goes. So as I say, this process doesn't always work first time, so we'll give it a go. We'll just heat the metal up first before we put the washer on. Oh, I think I might have got it. So there we go. That got the stud out. Yes, I'm pleased with that. It's amazing how I could get the drive shaft out by just undoing very little, although it was a bit of a runge to drag it out. Now I want to put it back in, paint it and not scratch it. I've had to virtually disconnect everything on the suspension to get the hub off, and the hub is now dangling. The Achilles heel is the handbrake cable there, which I suppose I should release inside. So I'm going to try and get a new drive shaft in here. I'll probably end up blocking half the picture, I'd imagine, but let's see. So here's the drive shaft, currently nicely painted up. Let's see how we get on with this. So I'm going to get this in here, push it all the way back, while lifting the hub. Whew, got it part way back in. What I'm going to do is get this bolt in the back suspension arm. So this side is all back together now. All I've got to do is put the ABS sensor in, which is here, and all I've got to do is put the ABS sensor in, but I just want to show you where the reluctor rings are so you can actually see how it actually works. So in that hole there, you can just see the reluctor ring coming through here, and if I turn it, you'll see, well, I've got the handbrake on actually, so I can't, but if I was to turn that round, you would see that rotate round. So all I've got to do now simply is put the ABS sensor in there, put a small grub screw in there, connect the electrical cable at the top into the socket there. That's done, and then I've got to repeat the whole lot on the other side. And if you want to know what tools are required to do this job, basically it's all them there. So work starts on the second drive shaft now, same thing again. Take the broken reluctor ring off, clean it all down, degrease it all, take all this rust that's coming off on here, scaling off on the drive shaft off, sand all that back, rust treat it all, paint it all up, ready to go. So second drive shaft rebuilt, ready to go. New ring on, drive shaft all painted. Original gaiters, but they're all right, there's no split, so I need to get that in the car now. So we're finally on the home straight now. All the ABS sensors have been replaced, all the reluctor rings have been replaced, the drive shafts are back in, they've been, I'd say rebuilt, they haven't really, I've just painted them, cleaned them all up, everything was fine on them, so that's saved me a few quid. Everything's all torqued up. So we've just got this wheel to put back on, lower down, and then we can go for a test run. the acid test now is what does it drive like. Got the new reluctor rings on, new ABS sensors, hopefully the brakes are a bit sharper, and hopefully that steering wheel feels nice. Let's go for a test drive. Well, what does it feel like? It's a Porsche, it feels epic. No, what does it feel like? It feels good. Only been for a half-mile drive, so I need to go a bit further, but it does sound good, so I'm happy so far. So there we go, 911 back on its wheels, test drive complete, ABS now working fine, no pull, no judder I should say, as you pull up, just at the last sort of below 10 miles an hour it used to have a bit of a judder on the pedal. That's gone now, and that's due to those snap reluctor rings on the back, so that's all good. Brake pedal actually feels a little bit better as well. So I'm just going to drive it around for a while, see how that feels, and might give the brakes a bleed and see if that just improves it a bit further. But I'm pretty happy for now, so until the next episode, goodbye and thank you for watching.